stormed out of the bar, and he followed her.
From me. Don't touch me. Dare you?
You better get the fuck out of here right now.
Bitch!
Trails were all muddy and wet. I had to cut up to Old Quarry by the bridge in order to get.
Welcome back to the Atreides Data Center channel. Today we will discuss the latest film by Hollywood mogul Clint Eastwood, Juror Number 2. The film is a courtroom thriller that presents a deep moral dilemma. Let's dive into the storyline, characters, and message that this film wants to convey. The film begins with Justin Kemp, a young journalist who lives a simple routine life with his wife, Allison.
Thank you. You know a lot for me.
And I'm so damn excited to keep building our lives together.
I watched a documentary, and
His life changes when he is selected as a juror in the murder case of Kendall Carter, a young woman who was found dead under a bridge.
With the accused and/or the deceased that will prohibit you from...
James Michael Scythe, Kendall's boyfriend, became the main defendant because evidence and witnesses were found that pointed to him. During the trial, Justin began experiencing disturbing flashbacks. The night before Kendall was found dead, Justin was driving after attending a party and received a text from Allison. On the way home, he suspected that he was the one who accidentally hit Kendall at that time. But still not 100% sure, because there were lots of deer crossing the road on that route. There were even signs that said, "Beware of lots of deer passing," and at that time it was raining, it was very dark, and there were no human sounds or human corpses visible. As time went by, Justin became increasingly convinced that he was the one who hit Kendall, because it happened exactly like what happened at the crime scene. However, the fear of consequences stops him from admitting mistakes. Faith Killebrew, the assistant prosecutor handling the case, tried hard to prove that James was the perpetrator. However, the evidence against James began to look weak.
He stormed out of the bar, and he followed her.
From me. Don't touch me. Dare you?
You better get the fuck out of here right now.
Bitch!
Several witnesses also criticized the defendant. For example, this woman explained that she often went to the bar and saw the two of them, James and Kendall. But that night, at first, the two lovebirds were very intimate. But the topic of their conversation became a bit tense, and they argue loudly. Then Kendall left the bar, and James chased him. Even outside, they were still bickering. Then this witness saw James get into his car and go towards the crime scene. Then there is the next witness. This man used to trek along the side of the bridge and found Kendall's body. Then Eric questioned this witness and asked, "Is it possible to go this route wearing heels?" This witness answered very difficult, because the position in that area is experiencing heavy rain. Then there was a middle-aged male witness. He explained that that night, he saw a man get out of a car in the middle of a rainstorm.
Remember what time that was?
He explained to Faith that after he got out of the car, he looked left and right, checked the car, stood up, then left. When Faith asked if the man was James, the witness answered, "That's right. He's the one."
Identified the man he saw as the defendant, James Michael Scythe.
Then the trial was postponed. Justin consulted a lawyer and explained the true incident. The lawyer explained that if Justin pleaded guilty, he would be sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. It would ruin his life.
Deer that ran off, and then I got up and left. I called for jury duty. Back onto Old Quarry. I went about a quarter of a mile.
Doesn't matter. Given your history,
That's it?
first-degree vehicular homicide.
Then now it's James's turn to sit as a witness.
Yes, Your Honor.
James did not deny that he had an argument with Kendall. At that time, Kendall opened a discussion about them moving in and living together. But James wasn't ready yet. Kendall insisted that if James kept postponing it, it meant that James didn't love Kendall, and that made James emotional. They argued in the parking lot, then James went home in his car. James explained that in their relationship there were sometimes arguments, but the next day they would be intimate again. James wouldn't bear to hurt Kendall because James really loved him. In fact, he was willing to leave behind his past, which was full of the criminal world.
No more questions.
Eric persisted and explained to the jury that not a single weapon was found in this case. Eric insists that the real perpetrator is still out there at large.
And that evil man is still out there.
Eric Resnick, James' attorney, highlighted the lack of direct evidence linking his client to Kendall's death.
At that point, I had stopped filming.
Thank you. You may step down.
Meanwhile, Justin, who sits in the jury chair, must face a moral dilemma. This is where Justin's internal conflict arises. As new evidence emerges, Justin becomes increasingly convinced that he is the cause of Kendall's death. However, he remained silent, hoping that James would be found guilty and thus close the case.
I went home. I drove.
Did you see that? Who took that video?
This worsens Justin's relationship with Allison, who begins to become suspicious of his strange behavior.
Why should I believe anything that you're saying anymore? You swear. Did you?
I promise. Okay.
Then this is the duty of a jury. Negotiate to reach a unanimous decision, whether James is guilty or not guilty. Initially, the majority of the jury agreed to find James guilty. There was one juror who was undecided. Tchaikovsky, a former police officer, didn't see the murderous look on James's face at all. This is what makes the jury's decision 50-50. This was also complicated because one of the trial jurors, Tchaikovsky, was a former police officer who had handled robbery and murder cases for 22 years. And he assumed that the trial system was indeed a bit strange. So the initial stage is to look for the perpetrator who has the biggest motive, then compile the evidence so that the evidence points to the perpetrator. Rarely do investigators open up the possibility that there could be other possibilities. For example, there is an alternative perpetrator, or it could just be an accident.
And what are we talking about here? What different caseload of the DA's office on a fraction of the budget?
On his own initiative, Tchaikovsky as the jury tried to dig into this case, which was actually not allowed. There are rules during the trial. The jury is not allowed to carry out investigations without permission, or even come to the crime scene. And to his surprise, Tchaikovsky found a clue. After visiting the crime scene, Tchaikovsky assumed that this case was a hit-and-run case. He got a list of repair workshops in the city. Because according to Tchaikovsky, in this case, it is possible that the part of the car that was damaged was the bumper, windshield, or front signal light, so he can narrow down the list. Then Tchaikovsky needs Justin's help to investigate together.
Forest Green. I mean, that's the exact same car as yours. This is every registered car in the county that was. We got to spend most of them here, so you want to help me with the legwork.
Justin was surprised to see his car on the list. Justin is clever. He pretended to drop the list to attract the attention of the police. The police helped Justin tidy up the paper and checked what was written. The police were surprised that this was something that violated the rules. The police reported it to the judge, and the judge decided to remove Judge Tchaikovsky from the jury list for the Kendall case trial.
You violated your oath as jurors. You are hereby removed from jury service. On account of your background, I'm going...
He didn't have anything to do with it.
Justin was still able to take part in the trial as a jury because he argued that he didn't know what was in the paper. After Tchaikovsky was removed from the jury, Tchaikovsky met with Faith and explained that she had a strong feeling that the Kendall case was a hit-and-run case. Faith did not immediately agree with Tchaikovsky's input. When the judge asked the jury about the decision in the Kendall case, the jury representative answered that they were deadlocked, and the jury asked the judge for permission to visit the crime scene so they could study the case more deeply. The judge gave permission.
To collect evidence of any kind.
So this is where they fought.
Hey. Yeah.
The trial reaches a climax when Justin can barely contain his guilt. He is faced with a tough choice: speak the truth and risk everything, or remain silent. As the trial reached its climax, Faith succeeded in influencing most of the jury that James was guilty. Even though he felt guilty, Justin still supported the majority's decision. James was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
Georgia versus James Michael Scythe, case guilty of count 1 malice murder. Date. The jury has found you guilty.
There was a letter shown to Faith. The letter was from Kendall's parents. They thanked him for helping to seek justice for his son. Here, Faith can see that the look on Justin's face is a look of guilt. This is where Faith realized that Justin was most likely involved in this case. After pondering Tchaikovsky's argument, Faith then tried to investigate the list of cars that had been repaired in the city within a week of Kendall's death. Faith visited the list one by one, including James' house.
Yeah, we were street racing.
Thanks for your time.
Yep. Fell asleep on Highway 17 and woke up in the ditch.
When Faith arrived, James was not at home. So what Faith asked was his wife. His wife explained that it was true that her husband had hit a deer that night in the area near the crime scene. Increasingly attracting his attention, Faith went to the house of a middle-aged man who lived across from the crime scene. Here, he saw that there was doubt in the witness, remembering that it was raining heavily, and there was minimal lighting at the crime scene.
They knew it was him. They just needed me to
Get some more information if something came to you new,
kill that girl, right?
Increasingly angry, Faith finally wanted to meet James in person in prison and ask him what really happened that night. James's response and answer remained the same. He had nothing to do with his girlfriend's death.
She got all worked up, talk this big...
Justin said that sometimes truth is not justice. The verdict has been determined. Justin also emphasized, considering that Faith has just been elected mayor, if Faith continues to bring up this case, Faith's career could be threatened. Faith's political rivals could use this issue to bring her down. Faith was silent.
Some politician just destroyed.
The film ends with Faith going to Justin's house, bringing new evidence that points to Justin's possible involvement in the accident. The ending is left open, with Faith standing at Justin's door, implying that she knows the truth. The film ends in an ambiguous manner, leaving the audience with the question, has justice really been served? Justin not only has to live with the decisions he made, but also with the guilt that never goes away. Now it's time for a personal review. Juror 2 is not just your average legal thriller.
Life in prison.
It is a deep exploration of human morality, justice, and the burden of guilt. The dilemma of remaining silent and letting the legal process play out, or admitting the truth, which could change his life, destroy his marriage, but exonerate a wrongly accused suspect. With a tense atmosphere, the film explores moral questions about guilt, justice, and responsibility. Clint Eastwood has once again proven that he is a legend in the world of cinema. So, are you interested in watching this film? Let us know in the comments. See you in the next video.